we achieve total freedom and flow. It's actually in the actual title. So flow is the equivalent of freedom. Being in flow is being free. Freedom and flowing is the same thing. But yeah, to delve into it a bit more is to say, maybe even using the metaphor of, I just read that psychologist who termed the coined or the termed yeah, created the term flow, Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi, something, I can't pronounce his name. He said that the people he interviewed said just that they described their flow experiences using the metaphor of a water current carrying them along. It was like floating. I was carried on by the flow. And flow is, of course, yeah, so it's a sort of a state in which usually when people are engaging in an activity where they are skilled at, usually like mountain climbing or playing chess. It could be anything, but usually some sort of activity. It can be something more creative like painting or singing or something like that. And they have done that for a lot of time and they are doing it. So we have a sort of optimal challenge and great abilities, and then people can experience flow. So the core components of it is an intense and focused concentration on the present moment, merging of action and awareness, a loss of reflective self-consciousness. Here we'll see like both the merging of action and awareness as well as a loss of reflective self-consciousness. And we could also say concentration on the present moment. All those sound spiritual, right? So those are the same things that we experience in meditation in many ways, at least concentration and concentration on the present moment. And I wouldn't say it's the goal, but I think it's a byproduct of meditation in many ways, loss of reflective self-consciousness. So the narrative self or our self-referential thoughts, they are not the object of meditation, right? Even though we can, of course, have, if we do noting, for example, as a spiritual practice or meditation practice, noting would be to note your thoughts, notice thoughts, but it's not to engage with their self-referential thoughts or the narrative self. That is not the point. We just notice it so that we get sort of distance from it. We're not flowing on the self, we're not engaging in the flow of consciousness that takes us, in quotes, away from the present moment, which takes us on another ride into fantasy. So we want to get back to the here and now, to the present moment, and we do that through meditation and through noticing perhaps thoughts and images or whatever comes up for us. Okay, so a sense of personal control or agency over the situation or activity. A distortion of temporal experience as one's subjective experience of time is altered. So we see even here, we also see kind of spiritual components or components that can be experienced to some extent in some forms of spirituality, at least. Experience of that activity is intrinsically rewarding. Also refer to autolytic. I haven't heard that expression before. Let's see if we can have why doesn't it show up? Okay, yeah. So we see that these core components of the flow experience has a lot of overlaps with the meditation. Of course, though, meditation is usually done sitting down. It can be done in walking meditation. In Zen Buddhism, we call that kinhin. So we have walking meditation, and the goal is, of course, to keep your meditative practice throughout all situations. It's just generally not just generally doesn't seem to happen for most people, or it takes a lot of effort or a lot of time, and it will permeate more and more of your life. The thing, though, that or the answer, or why am I describing it as freedom, is because, well, it is. People who are in flow feel free. It wasn't mentioned here, maybe, but the sense of being in flow, being what did it say? They spoke about. Yeah, I don't remember. He asked them some questions about it, and yeah, it was like floating. So the picture I had as a thumbnail was a river, a flowing river. Could also be someone surfing. I remember actually a researcher on flow, a flow researcher, spoke about how, or maybe it was intuition, I'm not sure. Flow into and intuition is also have a lot of overlaps, because it's not, so the narrative self tends to be in a willing suspension of disbelief, maybe, or it's just not there when we are in flow. So if you're out, this person gave an example of himself being out surfing, and during that during that surfing time, he had a strong intuition to, like, I don't know, to parry or go somewhere. I don't, and that intuition saved his life. And it was not from his narrative self. It wasn't the normal thinking mind. It was his intuition, and that made him wonder, or maybe he was already into intuition. I don't know, intuition research. What it says, though, or what I remember him saying, is that these intuitions come from another place, quite literally another place in our minds or brains, actually. So another physical place, so to speak, in our brains. And it's also experienced differently. I remember, who was it? Steven Spielberg, who said that he spoke about the still small voice. That was his way of speaking about intuition. So we have a still small voice, and we don't need to listen to it. It's really easy to not listen to it, and that is a core component of intuition, basically. So it's easy to neglect it. It's easy to just not care about it, and we have to almost train ourselves to get more in touch with it. It is individual, however. I've heard people saying that their intuition can be, quite loud at times, but I think in general it isn't, and I think it's also a core component many times is that we don't really understand it. It could be quite challenging to follow it. Steven Spielberg's examples, going up to a big producer saying, "I want to make this movie," and you're nobody. You don't have any experience. You don't know anyone. Those kinds of things, and feeling really fragile and feeling really vulnerable, and still doing it, or asking someone for a date or something like that. All those things can be intuition to being guided, as this researcher was when he was out surfing. So he was guided and it helped save his life. And there are other people like Adam Ondra, the mountain climber, who also speaks about him getting into flow and using intuition to climb. And he says he does a lot of free climb, and if he's not in flow, and if he's not following his intuition and instead start thinking with his thinking mind, he will fall down and also die. The famous chess master and the greatest chess player ever, Magnus Carlsen, also speaks about how he uses intuition to play chess. And it's not that the intuition is something magical. I think in some sense it can be seen or even be maybe magical, but here I think it's pretty obvious. It is not that I could go in and play against Magnus Carlsen and use my intuition and win. So it's you need skill too. Yeah, but the thing is, when you have acquired that skill, those abilities. And yeah, what do you do then? That's the question. So for Adamondra, even though he could, think about doing things, he could, maybe think his course in his mind, and that could work to some extent. He would still have a lot of skills to be used. It's just more optimal to follow your intuition, because your intuition takes into account, it seems, a lot of information that is unconscious to the biological organism. At least that's one way of, I think, explaining it in a materialistic sort of way. So everyone can, I think, agree to it. For Magnus Carlsen, it's the same thing. He knows a lot of chess, obviously. He's a chess grandmaster. He's the best chess player in the world. Yet he doesn't trust his own mind in making the next move. He says that that playing chess becomes really intuitive, at least for him. And he doesn't really know why he feels like he want to do a certain move over another one. But he also says that if he doesn't follow his intuition, or if it's not clear to him, and he starts thinking instead of maybe using those types of tactics, he loses. He tends to lose. He tends to lose a lot of those games, which is, I think, interesting. The same with Adamondra may fall down. So we have this flow, freedom, and getting into flow is freedom, because we just act, we don't think. Instead of thinking, we are just acting. That's the flow, freedom thing, and it's also related even more to spirituality, in the sense that we have this thing called sahaja samadhi within Hinduism. People like Ramana Maharishi, for example, speaks about it. We have different types of samadhis, spiritual states, we could say, nirvikalpa, nirod, nirvana, and those are usually not in action. The thing is with sahaja samadhi is that we are in, it's basically flow. It's basically flow. I'm going to read from the explanation here on this page. I don't know who has written it even, but it seems right. Seems correct to me. Sahaja samadhi is a type of samadhi or deep spiritual bliss considered by yogis to be their natural state. So it's often called like natural or spontaneous, or flow would probably, most people would be okay with that too, I think. It is often referred to as the highest or most complete level of samadhi. In this state, the silent awareness of the subject, the self, operates simultaneously with the full use of human faculties without any effort or control. That's the thing again. So we can get into deep states of consciousness, deep states of minds, different types of samadhis, but we're usually just sitting there. That may be fine though, but I guess to be living it, to be fully embodying it in your day-to-day life, you would want to carry that with you throughout all activities, which is what this tradition speaks about. And this is one way of speaking about it. Of course, Zen Buddhism, as I mentioned before, they also have ways of speaking about it. They often say like, chop wood, carry water, and just act, just do, don't think. That has a lot of similarities to this. So the characteristics of Sahaja Samadhi is effortless. Sahaja Samadhi rises naturally and spontaneously without the need for concentration or control. So here we say concentration and control is sort of maybe in opposition to flow, because we said that it's control is there. As I would say though that it is concentration in a way. I'm not sure how to think about it. So concentration for sure when you're climbing, and I think the Sahaja Samadhi is being in that flow, but in your everyday life. So that type of concentration needed to do most of these extreme activities, like playing the guitar, or like Jimi Hendrix, or climbing, or playing chess. That takes a lot of concentration and effort. Yet still, it can seem like you're not really doing anything; it's just happening. But you could still, claim that there's concentration there. Whereas in your day-to-day life, just walking around, that doesn't take a lot of concentration. You can just be flowing, sort of. Yeah, that could be a meaningful way to differentiate between those types of flow states, which are in essence similar, but one of them has less of a concentration to it, I guess. Natural. The term sahaja means natural or effortless, and I think also spontaneous, indicating that this effortless is basically spontaneous, indicating that this state is an innate and not forced. Effortless effort is something often described in Zen Buddhism too, which is not an oxymoron, but paradoxical. What is effortless effort? I remember asking my Zen teacher that at one point even. What is effortless? How does that? What does it even mean? But I think flow is a good way of thinking about it. At least it's in the end an actual experience. But you can have a lot of effort on the cushion. You can have a lot of effort climbing. You can have a lot of effort whenever, but it can still feel like being in flow, as if you're not really doing anything. Yeah. Simultaneous awareness. The self-awareness is present alongside normal daily activities without distraction or separation. So, yeah, we're in our meditative state. We're doing activities, and no distraction or separation. We're in the present moment. Eckart Tolle would be proud of us. Expanded awareness. Yogis describe Sahaja Samadhi as a state of expanded awareness, bringing peace, energy, and connection with the higher self. Yeah. So usually, when we are really free and flowing, and we have awareness, peace, energy, all those things, yeah, they are literally the same thing again. We have a lot of energy when we are just acting in freedom, in love, in connection. Being in flow, being free brings out those qualities, and those qualities bring out freedom and flow. So, yeah, in essence, freedom is flow, and flow is freedom. And how to achieve it? Yeah, it's not really, I guess it doesn't really answer it, because how do we get into flow? Well, unfortunately, it seems to take a lot of effort, or effortless effort. Being on the meditation cushion, that is the way to go, I think. Of course, we can get into flow and flow states within specific activities, which we're good at. If we get really good at an instrument, for example, that will be specific, though, to that kind of activity. So we wouldn't have that necessarily flow out to our daily life. So we would have to, I think it was Eckart Tolle who spoke about how flow could be through meditation. We can experience flow in our daily life, and not just in simple activities, or not simple activities, but not just activities which we are good at. It's more of when we wake up, when we let go of, or the egoic self is let go of, the more freedom arises from that, more flow arises from that, and we get into this state of Sahaja Samadhi, this non-dual awareness, you could say, where we're just acting, or something is acting through us. Even it doesn't even feel like we're doing anything, even though we can be doing something really tough, let's say, or hard, or taxing. Effortless effort again. So it's just hard work. It is meditating. It is all doing all these things that this traditions speaks about. And yeah, there's nothing more to it, I think.